And I've been explaining to our supporters and viewers at Judicial Watch about the Electoral College crisis and how Congress has an instrumental role in ensuring that the Electoral College votes uh, come from electors that were appointed the way that most Americans would want them to be appointed as a result of a fair, free, and clean election process. And you were the first member of Congress to step up and say, I may challenge these electors come January 6th when the Congress meets in a joint session to count the votes. Could you give us the background on your thinking that brought you to that decision, which really broke the dam about the challenges to electoral college electors in Congress?
Sure, there are really two parts of it. First is the applicable law, and second are the facts related to the election that just transpired. The law is very clear. Under Article 1, Section 4, the election clause, and Section 5, which deals specifically with Congress having total control over election contests involving House members and senators. Then you add in Article 2 and you add in the 12th Amendment, which deals with the Electoral College and issues associated with it. And then the 14th Amendment, which is equal protection. And finally, pursuant to Article 1, Section 4, the Elections Clause, which gives Congress total control over the times, places, and manner of elections. And to the extent we don't cover something, then the legislatures have that total control, provided that does not violate anything Congress does. Well, Congress made a couple of key decisions. One, we set an election day, not an election week or election season or election month, but an election day with certain specified exceptions by way of example for people with disabilities, people who are overseas, perhaps serving our country in the military, or people who cannot be at their polling place because they're geographically absent from that region on election day. And then there's another part of it too, which deals more specifically with the Electoral College, and that is Title 3, Section 15, and also 17, and some related code sections in there that states that Congress has the absolute right to accept or reject the Electoral College submissions of any state. And so that's the background in the law. Then we get to the facts part of it. And the facts, quite frankly, there are no standards in the United States Code or in the United States Constitution by which Congress can accept or reject the Electoral College vote submissions of various states. On the standard of proof level, it might be preponderance of the evidence, which is typically the level that you might say have in a court of law regarding an automobile accident. You might have clear and convincing, which might be the standard for punitive damages or something like that. Or you might have beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty, which is the standard in criminal cases, much higher standard because we're talking about depriving someone's liberty. But there are no standards set, burden of proof standards set in the United States Code or the United States Constitution concerning these kinds of election contests. There are also no prerequisites for what has to be proven. Okay, does there have to be election fraud proven? If so, how much election fraud do you have to prove? So that's not in the United States Code or the Constitution either. So to a very large degree, it's within the sound wisdom and judgment of the United States Congress as to whether there was election fraud and whether it permeated the system so much that we need to strike electoral college votes submitted by states that have an unusually bad and faulty system to the degree that the reported results are no longer accurate. That's the law. Let's get to the facts. In my judgment, if you look at the facts, if you do the homework, the facts are overwhelming. The evidence is overwhelming that we've had a bad problem with voter fraud, with election theft, with the casting of illegal ballots. Systemically, there are at least three areas that I focus on. And then outside of those systemic areas, you can look at the litigation and the supporting documents and affidavits and what have you that suggest that there was a problem in this precinct or that precinct or the counting machines over here versus there. And I don't know how much detail you want me to get into.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I've been trying to work. I go back to this basic issue that and you raised it. It's 3 USC Section 1 that we're supposed to select our electors on election day. And there's never before, at least in modern history, where we've had a result on election day that's changed as a result of days of counting afterwards. That's not what the law allowed for. It may be inconvenient to point that out, but it's the truth. And so if that didn't happen, what happens next? The states are supposed to take steps to select their own electors, the legislatures. That didn't happen either. So, I mean, no matter how you slice it, whether or not there was fraud, it didn't work. The process didn't work. The elections failed. And I think thirdly, when I think on top of all of it, you had, and I think the president's team has made a significant credible case that the states broke their own laws and broke the Constitution and violated, as you point out, the civil rights of countless voters in illicitly allowing ballots to be cast and then illicitly counting the ballots in various ways in a way that compromised the results and resulted in Biden getting electoral college electors he didn't deserve under the law.
Well, my preference would be that we had an honest and accurate election system that the American people have trust in. But it's quite clear that with the systemic flaws in our election system and the willful violation of the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 4 Elections Clause, and the various statutes that you've talked about and others by the states, that those ballots that were cast unlawfully, we have a choice in Congress. We can either ratify ballots that were illegally cast, or we can reject them. And I support rejection in large part because that sends a strong message to those state governments that it's high time they obey our laws.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.